Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me as always is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Good. Excited to talk about Game Awards nominees.
Yeah.
And got a little bit of news. Nothing super mind-blowing, but some interesting news nonetheless.
I want to jump down to something in the show notes and talk about it first because they finally did it, Zach.
What did they do?
We've been asking for it for years, and they have finally remade and remastered Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, I wondered if this is where you were going. Yeah.
Isn't that insane? Like, did we need this? I thought it already came out on PS5.
Yeah,
did it not?
I thought so too. Maybe it was one of those cross-generation PS4/PS5 games, but
I saw a screenshot where it's like a half and half of like, here's it from PS4 and here's it from PS5 or whatever. And I could not tell the difference.
Couldn't tell the difference? That makes sense.
It's crazy.
I mean, at least give it some time for people to get like nostalgic about it. Like, this is too soon.
So they've added a couple more things. They've added like some in-progress levels that you can play through as sort of like developer diary stuff, where you can see sequences that never made it into the game, which is interesting. And they've also added a new mode, a like roguelike survival mode, where you just have to survive for as long as you can. I think it's called like No Return or something. So I guess there's new things in this, but it just blows my mind that they're already remaking Last of Us Part 2, which I feel like already looked like gorgeous on I played it on PS4 and it looked great.
Yeah, I mean, those modes could have just been like DLC. They didn't need to release a new like remastered version of the game. We're going to get to a point where the PS6 comes out and they'll go Last of Us Remastered 2 Remastered.
It's crazy, but that was, I think, the most funny news I saw.
Yeah.
But there's other news to talk about. I just wanted to bring that up just because I thought it was so crazy.
It is funny. I feel like it was maybe a little bit the same way when they did the previous remaster that they did. Because it was like, I don't know if this is necessary. And then they doubled down on that and did one that was even less necessary, I would say.
Whatever happened to that like extraction shooter or whatever that was happening? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think maybe the last I heard that was maybe delayed or something. I don't know. I feel like they're probably still working on that. But like, you had like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Ghost of Tsushima that were like right at the tail end of the PS4 generation, and they were like, well, here's the PS5 version. I feel like that's all they had to do with this, but I guess they sort of, maybe it was like a cross-generational thing that had a PS5 version already. Maybe. But I don't know. Just do what Apex did and just have it be like a high-res texture pack or something like that you download. It doesn't have to be a completely new version.
Speaking of completely new versions, we got some information about the completely new version of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth this week.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first one, I guess the first in the Ichiban Kasuga series, the Yakuza Like a Dragon, was already a pretty long game. And evidently, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is even longer. And there was an article that PC Gamer put out that said that it is so long that they're afraid players won't take it all in unless they binge it, even at the cost of their health, in quotes. I don't know. I guess you're going to have to just like completely take all the time off work. You're going to have to not do anything life related and just play this game.
It seems wild that, I mean, there was that trailer a couple weeks ago we talked about on the podcast where they're like, hey, guess what? Animal Crossing is in this too.
Yeah.
As just a thing you can do. You can just go to this island at some point. But I mean, I scrubbed through that story trailer where I think we talked about it. That's like 10 minutes long, just about like different plot beats that are happening. It seems like a ton of stuff is going to happen in this game. And a lot of it, I think, is just going to be through cutscenes. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot of watching the game as opposed to playing the game, but I think there's also going to be a lot of playing the game. It's going to be a full, crazy long experience.
Yeah, they said they don't know if it'll be more than 100 hours, but I would assume it's one of those things that'll be like maybe if you just mainline the story and even like skip cutscenes, you can get done under that. But like if you try to do everything, especially the like Animal Crossing stuff, it's going to be like way over that. But I don't know. I'm interested in that game. There was Like a Dragon Gaiden that just came out on Game Pass, and I've been curious to check that out. I haven't had time to check it out, but I'm curious about that game. I find myself liking these games. I think I like the turn-based combat a little bit more than their like brawler beat 'em up style, but is this a game you're thinking about checking out when it comes out, or are you now intimidated by the length?
I don't know. I never finished what was the first one? Like a Dragon, I guess. Yakuza Like a Dragon. I got to a point where I think I needed to grind a bunch, and I just didn't want to do that. I got up to the point where I think I was about to fight that the like Bleach people or whatever. So I don't know how far along in the game that is, but like I think the Korean people. I had just gotten that Korean guy to join my team with the white hair. But I don't know. I like the idea of these, and I like how insane they are. But like you, I just don't know if I have time for it. It's such a commitment. So I don't know. I'll watch someone play it for sure, but I don't know if I'm gonna dip my toes in. Also, is it a PS5 exclusive?
I don't think so. I mean, the last one wasn't. So I'm pretty sure this will be on everything, but maybe you'd be able to get through it if you could play it portably. And that brings us to the PlayStation Portal, which is out now. And I picked one up.
Oh my god.
And it's very cool. I have to say, like, in fairness, I've seen a lot of reviews. I watch reviews for this, and the thing that stuck out to me about them is, a lot of people were like, it's a weird device. I don't understand it. And then they would perfectly explain it. And I'd be like, no, it seems like you understand it just fine. I don't know what you're talking about. Now, in fairness, there are some like oversights. Like you cannot use the PS5's like video streaming services on it, which seems weird.
What do you mean? Like you can't watch Netflix on it?
Yeah. So like if you have Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu, it doesn't let you watch them. You can basically only play games. And you're not able to stream the games from PlayStation Plus. So you have to own it. You have to have like a digital or physical copy actually installed on your PS5 to be able to play it. Which that seems like an oversight to me that maybe they could fix in the future. But also it's like, it's so thin because it doesn't have like really much internals. Which is fine because what it's doing is streaming something where your console's doing all the heavy lifting and you're just kind of, as the name suggests, viewing it through a portal basically. But I think that makes it so that you don't have any like actual operating system on the thing that you could use to like browse the PlayStation store to like look for games that you would stream. Now the downside to that, as well as some people have brought up on Reddit, is that if you go to like certain like say you go to a coffee shop or you're at like a hotel, a lot of places will be like, you can use our Wi-Fi, but you have to like opt in through your browser, and this doesn't have a browser because it doesn't have that stuff, so I don't know that you'd be able to use it there. So that's a pretty big oversight. I feel like that maybe they will have to like do some sort of over-the-air update to like add browser support. But like, I feel like Sony doesn't like browser support because I don't know that the PS5 has a browser.
I couldn't tell you.
I know the Series X has one, but I don't. Yeah. I think just because you can sort of find exploits through the browser, I feel like Sony sort of shies away from having them.
Locking it down.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that is an oversight. Now, from a physical standpoint, the controller is maybe my favorite of the portable gaming devices that I have. I like it.
Really?
I think it feels much nicer than the Switch with the little Joy-Cons, and it's much lighter. And the controllers feel so much better than even the Steam Deck. because it is basically like your DualSense controller, which is probably my favorite controller right now. And you get like the haptic feedback and you get the adaptive triggers that you would get when you're playing like a PS5 game. And I also have to say, like, I thought I was going to try this and be like, okay, my internet can't do this, and I was going to just return it. So far, that hasn't been an issue for me. They were not lying when they said that this is going to be much better. Like, the proprietary technology that they're using is much better than, say, trying to do remote play on your phone, for instance, which I've never had a good experience with. I've tried it. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
This, on the other hand, is way smoother. It's a much better experience. You do get like some disconnects now and then, but it usually reconnects pretty quickly. Hopefully that's something that they can also like resolve with an over-the-air update of some sort, but I've been impressed with it so far. I actually really like it. I think the 8-inch screen looks really nice, even though it's not an OLED. But this
is it a touchscreen?
It is a touchscreen. Cool. But this is like, it's just an accessory for your PS5. They never meant for it to be like a replacement, because if they did have like the ability to stream games through PlayStation Plus, I think Sony's mindset would be, well, people would just spend $200 on this and not get the PS5.
Yeah.
And they didn't want it to be a replacement or a competitor. They wanted it to be an accessory. And from that standpoint, like, I would happily buy this thing over that $200 Pro controller that they have.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that they're the same price. I would not buy one of those, but this, because it does give you that benefit of being able to play portably or remotely, there's like enough of a value there that it makes sense to me.
So, I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
I have 3 questions for you. The first question is, how's the battery life?
Good so far. I think I was reading a review. I think they said close to 8 hours, maybe.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, better than a Steam Deck or the Switch, because you're not running it directly from the device itself.
Right.
So that helps.
Yeah, so it's not doing anything too intensive. It's just streaming.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty solid battery life.
My second question is, how do you charge it? Is it just a USB-C cable, or does it have like a dock? No,
it's a USB-C cable. So you just plug it in the way you would like a controller. But the other downside to it, there are some downsides, is the headset situation. Now, for me, I don't really care that much. I'll just plug in my wired earbuds and use them and not worry about it. But like, if you want wireless and you already own like a wireless PlayStation headset, you can't use it. You have to like get one of their new ones. Those special earbuds? Yeah, the special ones that they release that are also crazy expensive. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Just plug in some wired earbuds. Pick up like, if you don't have any because you've gone all wireless, just pick up like a $15, $20 pair of earbuds and use those. My third question for you, have you installed Apex and checked it out on... I guess you don't need to install it because it's just looking at your PS5. I just have to play it off my PS5. I have not tried that yet. Maybe I will try that today. So what is the interface like? Is it just showing you the PlayStation? Like, can you activate Discord from the PlayStation Portable? Well, so PlayStation is weird in that you can't activate Discord directly from the PS5. Remember, you have to go into your phone. You gotta go to your phone, yeah, and connect via PlayStation as opposed to connecting directly. I wish they would do it the way Xbox does it, where you basically can just tab over and integrated. But otherwise you just like, you power it on and it like starts up your PS5 from like remotely from sleep, and then it like connects and there's like a circle in the middle that sort of opens up and you just kind of see your dashboard basically, and you can navigate around your home screen from your PS5, and you have everything you expect there. But it is cool. I do like it, and I have been much more impressed with the performance than I thought I was going to be. I a little bit expected it to be bad and that I would just return it and be like, no, it's not going to work. But fortunately, so far, I've been pretty impressed with it. So
Wow, a big reveal. I was not expecting you to have one.
Yeah, so I went out on a limb and I was like, they're gonna definitely sell out of these. So I just like pre-ordered it, and in the weeks leading up to it, I was like, I'm gonna cancel this for sure. Or maybe I'll just wait and then I'll get it and I'll try it, and it's probably not gonna work well and I'll just return it. And now we're like a couple days later and I still have it. So but I do like it, and I think it's going to be good over the holidays to be able to take with me and just like still be able to play PS5 games. So,
do you think there's going to be an Xbox answer to this? Like now, basically, they're the only ones that don't have, because Nintendo Switch is out of the box; you can take it anywhere. And now PlayStation has this thing where you can also just like play on a couch or like in bed or whatever. Do you think Xbox is working on something? I mean, they're so into their xCloud stuff, but I feel like I never actually see that.
I was going to say, I honestly think that Xbox's answer to that is their xCloud stuff. I kind of don't see them making a competitor portable device. And in fairness, I haven't played much, but I did like maybe a couple of years ago when they added Persona 5 Royal to Game Pass. I wasn't by my Xbox, and so I pulled it up on my phone on Game Pass, and it's one of those that you can play with like the touchscreen. And so I just kind of played through the opening of that, and it was way smoother to play it via xCloud than playing anything on my phone via remote play.
Whoa.
So I think they already, just having xCloud as opposed to remote play, already sort of had the leg up in that department. Now, it would be cool if they would release their own thing, but I think they're kind of have a similar mindset to PlayStation, where they don't want to remove the console from the equation. Yeah. And I think people would if they, especially if they had access to xCloud, and maybe they're fine with it. Maybe they will be, but like, I don't know. I just, because I guess they already have like, you can just play on PC and not have to buy a console.
Yeah,
but
they own Windows too, so I mean, it's like just play on Windows.
So maybe they're more open to it than I think, but yeah, I feel like people would just buy the portable device and sub to Game Pass, and then just not buy a console or a computer. But maybe I'm wrong.
I watched that. There was a new Clueless Gamer where he played Starfield. Did you watch any of that?
I saw that it was up. I did not watch it.
That whole thing is a commercial for, I mean, it's also just a funny thing, but it's mostly a commercial for the Samsung TV they're playing on, which is similar because you can stream games directly to the TV. You don't need a console.
What are they streaming it through, though?
Is Samsung, it's like some sort of Samsung proprietary, actually, I don't know. I think it's xCloud, maybe? I don't know, actually.
I was going to say, it sounds like Stadia, but not Stadia.
R.I.P. to Stadia.
If it's not xCloud, then I guess I don't know what it is. Maybe GeForce Now, but
maybe
that seems like something that would be integrated, but who knows?
Not to jump around in our show notes, but this kind of leads into, you know what you could use that portal for is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is coming out in February.
Yes, I'm very excited about that.
They released some new information for it. They released a new trailer that is just a recap of the previous game. So I mean, it's narrated by Red 13, which is a cool, weird thing. But they also released some screenshots and some more information about it. The screenshots reveal some things that I think people will be happy about. You can see Cid's airship, or at least I think it's Cid's. You can also see, and I know you're excited for this, Zach, they brought him back. You will be talking to and interacting with Chadley in this one.
I went back at one point and listened to our conversation about Final Fantasy VII Remake, and when we came to Chadley, I was like, well, I don't know what's going on with this guy, so I've interacted with him very little, and you were like, I Googled, what's the deal with Chadley? But yeah, he's back, I guess.
He's back, so I would assume he's still how you like level up your summons or whatever. I don't know how. I mean, do you recall his full arc from the first one? Not to get into spoilers.
I basically didn't interact with him very much throughout the game, so no.
Not to, I mean, it'll come up, I guess, in this one, but spoilers if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake, he was like an AI. He was like a hologram, basically, that Shinra created.
Oh, really?
That's why he's such a weirdo.
I guess that makes
but yeah,
sense.
he was a robot. And I think if you did a bunch of like combat challenges when you got to Shinra Tower, you could like free him or do something where he ascended or something. I'm not really sure. I never did that part because it got to be too difficult. But yeah, Chadley's in it. They showed off some screenshots from Calm, which is the place you go to directly after Midgar, which in the original, you just sort of go there and there's an info dump about like Cloud's past. But in this one, I think it's going to be a fully playable like zone. They talk about there's like an innkeeper character who I don't know if it was in the original, but there's a whole bunch of stuff I think you're going to be able to do in Calm. There's a big wall, I guess, that protects it from people. It'll be a much more deep experience than just like going there and going to an inn and having Cloud talk to you for a long time. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I don't own a PS5 right now, and I don't know what's going to happen in February, but maybe I will own a PS5. I don't know.
I was going to say, now's a fairly solid time. Our friend of the show, Mike, recently picked one up. And while I was at Best Buy actually picking up my PlayStation Portal, I saw that they had like just stacks and stacks of both PS5s and Series X's, and I guess also Series S's, but they also had the slim PS5 in stock.
The drought is over.
So yeah, the drought of consoles and not being able to go to a store to find one is definitely over. And yeah, some people were picking them up there at Best Buy, and it was cool. I think they had like a Spider-Man bundle that was happening. The Series S is like relatively cheap these days, I feel like. Yeah. Maybe I don't know if it's dropped in price or maybe they had like a special thing going on, but yeah, I don't know if you could find like a base model PS5 less expensive now than the slim version, but pretty cool.
Zach, talk to me about this BioWare writer.
Yeah, so I believe his name is Mac Walters. He is one of the writers on the Mass Effect and I believe also the Dragon Age series. He was the production director on Dragon Age Dreadwolf. But he also was like the lead writer on Mass Effect 2 and 3. And he left the company earlier this year, left BioWare, and has created his own studio called Worlds Untold. And it is a AAA action-adventure games with emphasis on narrative and world building is sort of their mission statement, I guess. But they don't have like a game, I think, that they have announced along with this. They're just like, this is our studio, we're working on stuff. And that makes like maybe the third former like BioWare guy to have left and formed their own studio. I know is it Casey Hudson has his own studio, and then there was like I think maybe Aaron Flynn was one of the other ones, and he has a studio, and I know one of those two, I don't remember which one it is, but has that what is the name of that game? I can't talk about it because Nightingale is what it's called.
Nightingale, yes.
Because I took part in an alpha very, very
Whoa.
briefly.
Oh, you have an NDA you signed?
Yeah. So I can't really talk about it, but it's like, I forget the premise of the game, but I think people generally speaking know sort of what it's supposed to be. But yeah. Anyway.
To me, it looked like, and you don't have to confirm or deny this, it looked like that, similar to that Amazon MMO that was happening for a while.
New World?
Yeah.
I mean, that game is still around, but that's a very different style of game. Like maybe aesthetically in terms of like what they're going for in terms of like the type of clothing or something like that.
Right.
But
maybe
like,
that's what it was. Yeah.
New World is definitely an MMO where you almost have sort of like Skyrim level leveling, where like everything you do will like has some sort of XP bar to it, so you can constantly, like, if you go chop down trees for resources, you're like building up your ability to chop down trees and things like that. And so there is like an addicting quality to that. I know they just had like a big release that they did somewhat recently that people were getting back into it for, but yeah, that game kind of came and went a little bit. But I guess we say that about pretty much every MMO, and I feel like we're probably right in that it's like it has its 15 minutes of fame, but like at the end of the day, it's gonna have like its niche audience that sticks with it. But other than that, what were we talking about? BioWare? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a new studio that guy made.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, it's going to be a long time, but Worlds Untold, just based solely on like the little bit you can glean from like their mission statement and some of the images for like the logo of their studio, maybe a Mass Effect competitor.
Interesting.
Dare I say they might go that direction? Hard to say, but I mean, it's the lead writer of like the best of the Mass Effect series, so hopefully he will sort of carry forward that, but we'll see, I guess.
Zach, it's been 25 years since Half-Life came out. Did you know?
It's you're getting to be a pretty old thing, and I don't think we're ever going to see another one.
Yeah, I don't know. Valve is sort of doing its own thing these days. But before the 25th anniversary, a bunch of stuff is happening. They released a 1-hour documentary that supposedly is very good. I've heard people talking about it on Twitter that it was very interesting. Also, the original Half-Life is 100% free to keep, not just to try, but you can just like go get it for free on Steam. They've added some new multiplayer levels and reworked how the like multiplayer netcode works. Like it's easier to play online now, I guess, than it was. And there's new character models you can try out that were like previously not released. And it's Steam Deck compatible. It's deck verified. They've added support for widescreen officially. There's been a lot of mods that let you do things in this, but it's all things Half-Life, the original Half-Life. Which have you ever played the original one?
I don't know that I've ever finished it, but I think I've played, maybe it was 1 or 2. I'm not quite sure.
2, I think, really holds up. I think 1 does too, although if I was going to replay it, I would probably replay the like remaster / remake that came out, that like Black Mesa that I think is available now, where they added a whole bunch of stuff to like Zen and whatnot. But I have a lot of nostalgia for 2. I played it on my old computer back in the day. One of those like big blocky CRT, like old classic monitors. And I loved it. It was very interesting. It was before really I was like looking stuff up on the internet. So I was sort of just learning about things. I didn't really know what the G-Man was, but the original Half-Life, I actually played after Half-Life 2, and I played it on PlayStation 2, I think. There was like a port to PlayStation 2. So I played it on console. But both of these are super solid. I would say that Half-Life, the original one, is maybe a little scarier. There are parts where maybe I was too young to play it, but I got a little freaked out when I was playing it. Especially towards the end when you go to the like alien world or dimension. But I think everyone should check this out. I think it's, Half-Life is a seminal work. There was Doom, there was Quake, and then there was Half-Life. It like really iterated on the first-person shooter, and so did Half-Life 2, frankly, with like the physics and stuff. But if you're interested in like old school FPSs, definitely check out Half-Life. You can get it for free right now.
Yeah, and it's deck verified, so if you've got a Steam Deck, might as well jump on that.
But yeah, that's all of the regular news. Our main feature this week is talking about, they announced on Monday, was it Monday or Tuesday? They announced the nominees for the Game Awards this year, which is happening in just a little under 3 weeks.
Yeah, so I guess we can just go through these. I don't know if you want to necessarily touch on all of these, but we can go through some of the big ones are the ones we care about. But do we want to start with Game of the Year?
Game of the Year is going to be either Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, it's not going to be Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, or Tears of the Kingdom. Out of these 6, one will win. What are your takes on what's going to get it all? What's going to win it all? Not necessarily for you, but for the actual voting.
I don't think there's any chance that it doesn't go to Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, I am in the same boat. I think that just the critical response and the fan response to, like, I'm still constantly seeing people post about Baldur's Gate 3. And I mean, I guess it hasn't been out for that long, but I feel like it's such a densely packed story. There's like so much to do and so many characters to latch onto. I feel like, there's no way it doesn't either go to Baldur's Gate 3 or, frankly, I mean, there was a point in time where I was sure it was going to go to Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't know. Nintendo has a lot of power, like a lot of staying power, but I think it's between those two. Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate 3, I think, are the two heavyweights.
I agree. I think the most likely candidates here are Baldur's Gate 3 or Tears of the Kingdom. We were texting a little bit, and we were surprised that Resident Evil 4 was on this list.
Yeah, it's a weird choice, I think, when it could have been... I feel like there's something else that could have picked this spot, but I mean, people liked it when it came out, but it also, Resident Evil 4 is maybe the most released game. I feel like it's come out like 10 times.
Like, I know this is a big remake and people were super hot on it when it came out, but like, there was also like a lot of people were saying that the nominees for pretty much every category felt a little bit recency bias because... I mean, out of the 6 options here, at least 4 of them came out within the last, like, maybe 2 months.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think a lot of people would rather something else have gone in place of Resident Evil 4 just because Resident Evil 4 is also a remake. And how much weight do you put behind a remake?
Yeah.
I was a little bit surprised. And maybe I'm just like completely misreading this, but I was a little bit surprised to see Super Mario Brothers Wonder and a little bit surprised to see Alan Wake 2. Maybe because I'm just not a horror fan, so it like that didn't really hit my radar at all. But I know people are into it, so
I think I get Alan Wake 2. I've heard it's like very, very like a masterpiece, basically. And I mean, Control really had its hooks in me, and it was like a very cinematic game. And I heard people, I think it was maybe on the Min-Max show, they were talking about how like Control basically, you know, got them ready for Alan Wake 2. Like there were elements that they have iterated on in Alan Wake 2 where it's just like, okay, this is a fully realized the game director like doing exactly what they want to do. And also, I think Jeff Keighley, was the first thing that surprised me about it was like when it came out, Jeff Keighley tweeted like, "This is a masterpiece, like well done, Remedy. This is amazing." Really? And like Sam Lake was like, "Hey man, thanks. This sounds great to hear." And Jeff Keighley was like, "You know, the fact that you have done this is just like it's mind blowing or something." So Jeff Keighley is super hot on it, I think. But I don't know. It kind of makes me want to play it, even though it is a scary game, and I did not play Alan Wake 1. I like the idea of the Remedy, like, connected universe or whatever, and I will super play whatever the next Control is, because I loved Control. But I didn't play the Alan Wake Control DLC either, so I don't know. I mean, also, I feel like it's sad that... I mean, Spider-Man 2, by all accounts, is supposed to be a really great game, but I don't think there's any way it's going to win. Yeah.
I think a lot of people like it and are into it, and I've heard basically nothing but good things about it, but I mean, I don't know if it's just like Sony's fate when it comes to big releases, but it's basically the Horizon Zero Dawn / Horizon Forbidden West effect, where
that's a very apt comparison.
They release like a big game that like looks beautiful and by all accounts is a great game and it gets good reviews and everybody loves it, but it just like will never be so well loved that it's going to outdo like whatever actually ends up winning Game of the Year. So
now something that is not on this list is Starfield.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you felt about that. I think, generally speaking, most people, it's so sort of divisive that I feel like maybe, I guess it makes sense, but I feel like I would have been happy to have had it here in place of Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, I think that would have made more sense, to me at least.
I liked it well enough to say that it deserved more than one nomination that it got in all of these categories, but I also know that that's not necessarily, generally speaking, the sentiment on the internet as it goes for Starfield.
I mean, I think it's a similar thing, I think, to Marvel's Spider-Man, where it's just like, it's a super solid experience that you will enjoy playing, but I don't know that it's like Game of the Year material, similar to Spider-Man, where it's just like, there's so many other things that are doing more interesting things. My friend and I were talking about this because over Thanksgiving break, he was going to either play Starfield or Tears of the Kingdom because he just got a Switch. And he asked our like group chat, like, which one of these do you think I'll have more fun with? And I thought about it, and I was like, well, Starfield is super fun, but I think I had like more interesting moments in Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I had more impactful moments, like figuring out that stuff about the Master Sword and stuff was like more impactful than anything in Starfield, I think. And I had trouble telling him which one to do, but ultimately I was like, maybe check out Tears of the Kingdom. So I don't know. I think it should have gotten nominated maybe, but I also get that it's divisive.
For me, and maybe this is like tipping our hat when it comes to like what we're going to do with our top 10 builder, but like I definitely would have had Tears of the Kingdom over Starfield if Starfield were on this list, even though I liked it quite a bit. But I do feel like it probably should have been nominated. Like, and let me just throw this out here as someone who likes Super Mario Wonder, maybe not shouldn't have been on this list.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are also people who are like, well, like, what about Octopath Traveler 2 or something like that? I mean, this year was such a jam-packed year for games, and that's why I think a little bit some of it is like people saying, well, this is recency bias. Like, why give a nomination to that instead of that? And other Microsoft fans were also pointing out Hi-Fi Rush, but also like Final Fantasy 16 is out there. Why, like, that got, I mean, it did get some nominations for things, but like snubbed a little bit in this category. But I don't know. I think there were other options other than Super Mario Brothers Wonder and Resident Evil 4 that could have filled those slots, and I think more people would have been satisfied.
Another thing I saw, because there, let me actually find these. Where's I want to view all. Best indie game, I heard, was a little bit controversial. I have to find it in this grid. Let's see here. Best ongoing. Oh, here we go. Debut indie game. So,
well, so there were two independent ones. There was best independent game and best debut independent game.
Oh, I didn't realize there were two.
Yeah, so there's two categories like back to back, right next to each other. That's
yes,
like
I see it
best
now.
independent and then best debut indie.
These seem almost identical to me. I'm looking back and forth at them. I don't know what the difference is, actually. What's the difference?
Well, so one is like an independent game that like is the first game that the studio has made, and the other is like just like a really good independent game. Now,
what are your thoughts on, because this is another one where I think people are it's gonna be controversial whatever happens, but I really liked Cocoon a lot, but I know people also really like Dave the Diver, and I've heard people talk a lot about how Dredge is. I mean, you played Dredge, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, this was the hardest category for me to pick. Yeah. I'm not going to lie, because I played all of these in the independent category except for Dave the Diver, and I heard a lot of good things about Dave the Diver, and I wanted to play it, but I liked all of these games quite a bit, and in fact, I think all of them, except maybe Sea of Stars, because I didn't play quite enough of it, were on our top 10 list at one point.
Yeah.
So for me, just because I didn't play enough Sea of Stars, which is, by the way, the one I think will win this, because I think there were a lot of people that were not happy that Sea of Stars wasn't among the, Game of the Year nominees.
Yeah.
But for me, it came down to Dredge and Cocoon. And I personally voted for Cocoon, but I can see I can see this going to Dredge or Sea of Stars.
Well, I voted for Cocoon in the best independent game, but on the best debut indie game, I voted for Pizza Tower.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I saw Pizza Tower was on there. And this is one of those like weird award show things where you go, well, how can one be the best independent game?
Yeah, and not the best debut.
Not the best debut indie game. Like, it's just like logically, I don't know how these categories make sense. It's just like a weird, nonsensical thing that we do anytime an award show comes up. But yeah, the categories are pretty similar in terms of what's there, except I guess Pizza Tower and Venba are in the best debut indie.
Did you, for best ongoing, did you go for Apex Legends?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I did too, although I think Cyberpunk is going to win that because everyone says it's so good.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I picked that one because that's what I've been playing, but I don't think it's the one that's going to win because Cyberpunk is there, and I think more people are into that.
Are there any other nominations that stick out to you?
Let's talk best RPG, because I feel like this category is a tough one. Actually, it's not that tough because Baldur's Gate 3 is in there, and it's one of those.
I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to sweep.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it is an interesting category. People are really hot on Lies of P, actually. I have seen some TikToks where people are like, hey, just FYI, this game is great.
Yeah.
But I've not checked it out.
Now, I liked Final Fantasy 16, but like as an RPG, I don't think I would put it. It's more of an action game, I would say, akin to like a God of War style game that I wouldn't call an RPG so much as just an action game. But I don't think there's any way that Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't win this.
Yeah.
And then maybe like the second spot would maybe be Sea of Stars.
Which, by the way, we should say, Larian was tweeting, or someone from Larian was tweeting, hey, Xbox fans, we know you're itching to get your hands on Baldur's Gate 3. Well, stay tuned for the Game Awards where we're going to reveal a release date trailer. So one of the things we'll get at the Game Awards in a couple weeks is the announcement of whenever. I mean, they could be like, it's happening now. Like, we're dropping it now. But more likely it'll be sometime in January or February.
Well, so another interesting part of that is Larian actually announced a physical copy of the game. And it's like a collector's edition. I would have to look up what all comes in it. But you get like, I think for sure, like a physical copy of the game and like the soundtrack and maybe some other little odds and ends for like...
You get a map, which now that I'm looking at this, I just started sweating.
I was going to say, I pre-ordered it.
I maybe need to... Did you do it for Xbox or what'd you do it for? Does it matter?
I did it for PS5. But that was the interesting thing is that they had a listing for both PS5 and for Xbox. So even though they've not officially announced when it's coming to Xbox, we know it's going to. And this is just like, here's a physical version of it. So you kind of have
a physical map.
You kind of have the option. But yeah, for like basically a full-on collector's edition of what's very likely the game of the year.
Yeah.
It's not that expensive.
How much is it?
I think it was like $80.
That's not bad at all. For a physical map?
For exactly, like the collector's edition version of this game that came with all that stuff, I think was just $80, which is like $10 more than the cost of just the base game.
Yes.
Well, maybe I should look it up and confirm that was the case, but I was like, oh, that's not bad at all. So I ended up pre-ordering it.
Where'd you pre-order it?
From Larian. I just went to their website. I couldn't find it anywhere else, but yeah, I would say jump on that while you have a chance.
I think I am going to.
Because you get the physical map, you get the game, you get the soundtrack, you get like a bunch of stuff in it. So maybe next year will be like the year of Baldur's Gate 3 discussion for us. We like missed out on it this year, but
it's only in whatever currency this is, VAT or no.
I think when you go to like check out, it's like, oh, you're in the wrong country. Do you want to switch over? And you'll be like, yes.
Well, I don't have to do this live.
You don't have to do it now. You can do it later. But yeah, the other category of nominations that I thought was weird was like best action game versus best action adventure, because I don't know what the differentiating factor is there. But I guess it gives them the chance to like throw out some different games. So in best action game, you have Armored Core 6, Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant 2. I didn't know what to pick because I didn't play any of these games.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be interesting to see which one wins. I a little bit think it'll be Hi-Fi Rush.
Do you think that... well, here's an interesting question. Everyone loves Asterion from Baldur's Gate 3, but do you think that Idris Elba is going to win Best Performance, or is it going to be the guy that played Asterion?
Ooh, that's a good question. Until you said that, I definitely was like, oh, that'll be Idris Elba.
Yeah.
But that's true. They've got somebody
People
from
love him.
Baldur's
They say
Gate.
he's the best part of the game.
Yeah. That's tricky. I feel like if I were picking, I would say Baldur's Gate's going to sweep so many things. Why not spread the love and give it to Idris Elba?
I think so too.
Also,
I mean,
how often does Idris Elba
end
end up in games?
Yeah, to have him on stage would be crazy.
Yeah. He'll be up there with Al Pacino.
I was going to talk about that. Yeah, what do you think is going to... Every year, the first thing that happens is crazy. 2 years ago, it was Christopher Judge winning like Performance of the Year. He came up, talked for
like
40 minutes.
It was so long.
And we were like, what is happening? Last year, it was Al Pacino being like, what's up, guys? I don't know what I'm doing. What's going on?
Was that not the same year?
Was that the same year?
I think
Did both
it
of those things
was.
happen at the same time?
I think it did, because I remember he gave the award to Christopher Judge, and he went up there and just talked for
You're right.
forever and just would not stop talking. And it was like he was doing it on purpose to troll Jeff Keighley.
I wonder if Idris Elba will do the same thing. Or I am so curious who's going to present the award to him. Because what if it is just Al Pacino again? Wouldn't that would be the most crazy thing?
That was what I was going to ask you. Is like, what is a random, completely like unrelated to gaming actor that you would think would be the most out of touch when it comes to video games that you could possibly find in Hollywood that Jeff Keighley could get on stage?
You know who's popping off right now because of his daughter is Scorsese.
Yeah.
I could see him showing up on stage and be like, I don't know, my daughter said this is a good idea. What's going on?
Well, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like he wouldn't do it, but it would that would be funny to see.
Somebody super old.
Yeah, who's somebody old that you'd like is the last person that you would think would show up at a video game related thing?
Who's that guy who Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott, yeah.
That would be crazy.
That's a good pick for somebody that you wouldn't think would be anything related to video games.
You know what I Googled to find that?
What?
Old cowboy guy with a white mustache. Immediately, first result.
I mean, because obviously that's what you Google when you want to come up with the name for Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm just trying to think of like what actor, and maybe it's like a weird actor too. That's like,
you know who would do it, especially if it's Idris Elba, is Keanu Reeves. If Keanu Reeves was like, hey, we had fun together doing this, even though they probably were never in the same room with each other.
That's true. Yeah,
it would be very symbolic.
He would actually do it, and that would be cool to see.
Yeah.
Or I mean, they could get what's his name, Nicolas Cage. That's another obvious one.
He would do it.
What if they got Gary Busey?
That would almost feel like elder abuse. I sometimes see videos of Gary Busey and I'm like, is he okay? Should people be filming him right now?
Yeah, probably not.
But it would definitely get the clicks. I'll say that.
It would get the clicks, that's for sure. The other thing that you have to think about with these shows now is, will another like really weird, annoying person like take the stage, and
you've got to imagine it
have to be super disappointed.
At this point, it's happened 2 times in a row, because it happened last Game Awards, and I think it happened
Opening Night Live. I think maybe
it happened at Opening Night Live, and did it happen at Gamescom? It happened twice in a row.
Yeah, I don't remember which the two were. I thought it was Game Awards and then Opening Night Live.
I think you're right. So it was Bill Clinton Kid, and then it was just a nameless person who rushed the stage and was immediately taken out. But you got to imagine he doesn't want it to happen again. It seems like it really upsets him when it happens. Like, he doesn't really joke around about it. He just, like, immediately is, like, super serious and stern and, like, this is a terrible thing. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, he's like, it's just so disappointing. I think he said that like 3 times in a row last time it happened, and he was visibly unhappy. And
so
he had to like immediately
imagine,
calibrate and be happy again to present the next thing. But
you've got to imagine that he's gonna, like, security has to be beefed up. It's difficult, I think, because I mean, it's a show, much like a lot of award shows, where when someone wins, they just get up from the audience, and sometimes they do have like a retinue of people behind them. So it's hard to filter out those people and get them on stage, but there's got to be a way to do it.
That's why it was easier to stop the second person who went up, because they just kind of like mid like Jeff Keighley's announcement just like rushed the stage, and so it was easy to be like, that guy, get him, whereas the first guy like did it stealthily, where he just walked up with the people accepting the nomination. But
it would be crazy if it happened again. And I know that Jeff Keighley, it has to be on his mind as like something like, I can't be known for this, because if I'm known for this, it's going to happen every single time. I have to cut it off.
Yeah, for sure. So, he's like, how do we amp up security? How do we like put a stop to this as quickly as possible? It's like trying to find the way to stop somebody who like gets down on the field during a sporting event and runs around the field, and they're just like, don't show them on camera, because that gives them their moment of fame, but also like tackle them in a very like physically injuring sort of way, and then make sure that their face and name do not get released. And that's how you have to handle it, I guess. But it's harder to do when they're literally running at the person who's on camera.
Yeah. So, there's not something you can cut to, really.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can cut to audience, I guess, but
yeah.
It's interesting. I think we will get some surprises as far as like games and stuff. Here's my conspiracy theory, because the first thing I texted you, I think, when you sent me the nominees, was like crazy, like wild that Silksong is not on the most anticipated games.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because I knew immediately. I was like, oh, this is going to be very disappointing for Capcom.
Because it's definitely like when you log into feeds, like log into like, YouTube Live or whatever, when things are happening and Nintendo's revealing stuff, or there's like an award show, people are always saying like, when is Silksong? What's going on with Silksong? And I feel like it's like inundated the community so much. It's like, it's such a joke, but he's got to know, like, I guess he's not in charge of most anticipated games. He's like not in charge of picking. It's like a panel of a jury or whatever. But my conspiracy theory is it's not in upcoming games because it's going to get released at the Game Awards.
I mean, that would be cool. It would be a huge get.
It'd be a huge get.
But I also a little bit wonder if some of these are based on like, when was the last time a trailer was released for this? And
it's a good point. It would have been 2 E3s ago, or fake E3.
Yeah, so it's been a hot minute for that game, whereas I think all the rest of these have had a trailer somewhat recently, probably within the last year.
So it was 2 E3s ago where they had that Xbox conference where they were like, everything we're showing is going to be released 1 year from now. And eventually Team Cherry was like, hey guys, this is not happening. So don't get excited for like June 14th or whatever. And that was like the last communication we got from them. So I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know why it isn't nominated. It's crazy to me. Like, there were so many last year because like Tears of the Kingdom hadn't come out, Starfield hadn't come out. So there was a lot to pick from. But
yeah, I know you can't just have like an infinite list of like everything on here, because then like the voting gets too spread out.
Yeah.
But also like it's just like a fan thing where you just like let people vote on stuff. So why not, like, why limit the categories the way they have? It seems a little arbitrary to me. I feel like there are a lot of these categories that could have had a lot more things nominated, and But I also think with these award shows, they want it to feel exclusive. They want it to be like, oh, you like the nomination, just getting the nomination means something, you know?
Yeah.
And so I guess you can't just throw everything out there. But you definitely picked Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right, for most anticipated in the absence of Silksong.
Yeah, I thought about picking Hades too because I did love Hades, but and I will probably be able to play, even if I don't have a PS5, I'll be able to play Hades. But I did pick Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just because it looks great and I love it.
Yeah, I think you played a lot more of the first Hades than I did. I didn't
get all the way to 100%, but I did complete 4 or 5 successful runs. I think you need to complete 10 or 12 to get the true ending.
Yeah, I never got close to that, so I will probably play Hades too, but I'm definitely looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth a lot more. So,
should we get into what we've been playing or watching, or are there any other closing remarks about the Game Awards? We'll have lots of coverage of it, obviously.
I was going to say we'll talk about it after it happens for sure. I do want to bring up Super Mario RPG is out this week, and that is the thing I have played this week. And it is as good as you think it's going to be. If you've played the game at all before, it's this great Super NES era RPG that has that sort of active turn-based combat style where you pick your attack and then you sort of time a button press, and that's been very influential in the world of turn-based RPGs, such that even the Like a Dragon games are doing that. So that's very fun. Oh, and Sea of Stars did that as well. But I just, something about the visuals, something about the music of that, it's very sort of evocative of the 90s era to me. So it's very nostalgic to be playing it, but also the visuals of it are updated and modern and look great, but it still has that old school feel to it. There is an option in the settings to switch to the old classic music, but they do have modernized versions of all the songs in it. So that's great. And I haven't tried it, but I assume that the Super NES controller from Nintendo Online, the wireless one, will work with it. I don't know why it wouldn't, but a great little game. And I played a little last night, making a little bit of progress in that. And it's not a super long game either, so that's nice if you're like me and you don't love the idea of a 90-hour RPG. You can just play this for a solid 15 to 20 hours and you're good. And then speaking of super long RPGs, Persona 5 Tactica did come out this week. That's on Game Pass, and I was going to download it, but it was oh, this is only for Game Pass Ultimate. So I guess there's some games on Game Pass that you have to have the expensive tier to be able to play. So that was I'm not super into the chibi cutesy art style of it, but I've heard fairly good things about this, and they've done a good job of sort of expanding on Persona 5 with their sort of obviously they did Persona 5 Royal, and that game was a better version of Persona 5, but then also Persona 5 Strikers I really liked a lot, and that was the more action combat combo based sort of Muso style game, but it felt a lot like Persona and a lot of the other stuff it was doing, and I liked that game a lot. And the other cool thing about this is because it's another game in the Persona 5 series, it will have another soundtrack worth picking up probably because the music is so good in the Persona games, but Persona 5 had a great soundtrack, and then there was another soundtrack release for Persona 5 Royal, and then there was another one for Persona 5 Strikers. I'm curious to hear some of the music from this new game. And they were I think I listened to the Besties podcast, which is the McElroy's game podcast, and they were talking about it this week. And they were talking about how it's, sort of a tactics style game. So it's reminiscent of things like Fire Emblem or even Baldur's Gate, because it's that style of turn-based combat where you're sort of positioning characters and things like that. So, or even like Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope or XCOM or something like that. So it's that style of game, and I feel like we've gotten some good ones here over the last year or two. So if you have Game Pass Ultimate, I would say that would be the way to play it. But you do have to have the $15 tier version of Game Pass, apparently, which is a little bit of a bummer. So, but that's all I've been playing this week. What about you?
I've been playing Apex. I think we played one time this week together.
I didn't get a chance to play this week, so
who did I play with? Maybe we have a friend named Andy who I might have popped in with briefly. But still playing it, still great. I'm liking it. Unlocking things, just kind of logging in every day to get enough points to get to the next level of the battle pass. But seems cool. Very excited for that Uprising event that's going to be happening in December. Then the other thing, I don't remember if I talked about this, but I watched that Across the Spiderverse movie. Did I already talk about this last week?
I don't think so.
It came on, I think it's on Max now. But I loved Into the Spider-Verse. It was a great movie. And now Across the Spider-Verse released on Max for free. So we watched that. And it was also great. Very excited for the third one. It leaves it at a very interesting point. It's sort of a Back to the Future 2 type of thing where it sort of ends on a huge cliffhanger. And you're kind of waiting for the third one to come out. But
does Doc show up and say something Doc shows about their kids?
They got to go back. They have to go to the Wild West. But no, it looks it's visually a masterpiece. And we were watching it, and they released a couple different versions of it in theaters because it's like a multiverse thing. But I need to go watch one of those things where they show the differences. But I don't even know if I could tell the differences because like every frame of this movie is like so rich and detailed. I feel like I was missing stuff constantly.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much to see.
That's how I felt watching the first one.
But it was great. I loved it. I can't wait for the next one. The culmination of this trilogy, or who knows if there'll be more. But I haven't watched the second thing next, but yesterday as we're recording this, they released Suzume on Crunchyroll, so we can watch it now. I tried to watch it like a month ago, and I couldn't figure out a way to watch it. But Suzume is by the guy that made Your Name and Weathering, that Weathering movie I didn't really like. But Your Name I love. And this one, by all accounts, is supposed to be great. So if you have a Crunchyroll subscription, you can now watch Suzume. I'm going to do it tonight. It's going to be, I think, good. But that's all I've been playing.
I don't know if I ever got around to watching Weathering with you. Maybe I was put off by it because you said you didn't like it. But
yeah, it's not as like fun as Your Name, and it also, I don't know, the second half of it I found to be a real downer in general, and I didn't super connect with the story as much as I did with Your Name. But everyone says that Suzume is great, so I'm excited to check that out.
Well, speaking of like Marvel related stuff, that Variety article I shared last week, there was like they were saying that Marvel's in a little bit of a desperate spot now where they're even considering bringing back like Iron Man and Captain America and some of those heroes they've sort of moved on from. Would that be enough to get you back into those movies?
I mean, I still watch them. I'm definitely going to watch Blade whenever it comes out, and I'll watch the Marvels when it comes out on Disney Plus. But I mean, until there is a thing where like it's so crazy that I feel like I have to see it before I see like internet stuff about it, like before I get spoiled, I probably will just continue to watch them at home. I mean, it takes a lot. I feel like the next thing I'm going to watch in theaters is maybe Dune 2, just because that's going to look great on a huge screen. But I don't know. I don't know what they would have to do to maybe a full reboot if they were like, we're starting again from zero. I don't know. I had the Marvel's final scene spoiled for me. And I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. I might check that out if they go forward with it. But I don't know. I think I'm cool with them not doing any more Iron Man, Captain America type of things. Although I would like more Loki. I watched the series finale of Loki, and that was great. but it also left him in sort of a weird place where I think it would be interesting if he interacted with people afterward. So who knows? If he shows up in another movie, I might go check it out in theaters, but I don't know.
I don't know. I've lost all interest. So you're our Marvel person now.
I'll report back.
Okay. Some of the trailers I've seen for recent Marvel stuff has just looked like kind of like CW level stuff that just does not interest me.
Did you watch that Madam Web trailer that everyone's kind of dunking on?
Yeah, that's kind of the one I was thinking of.
I love Adam Scott. I think he's a super cool guy. And I listen to that music podcast with him and Scott Aukerman all the time. So I'm going to check it out for him, but I do think I was watching, I was like, what is happening in this movie? It looks crazy.
Well, and that was the thing is I couldn't believe it was actually a movie. I was like, this looks like lame CW teen stuff. And I was like, but if they just like release it as a show meant for teens on like Disney Plus, like, okay, I get it because you're doing like different things for different age groups, whatever. But then it was a movie, and I was like, okay, why does it look so bad?
It's Sony. It's like Sony being like, hey, we technically still do Spider-Man stuff. So here's Madam Web, and also, have you seen the trailer for that Kraven movie?
No.
That looks truly not great. What's also weird because Kraven, I think, is one of the main villains in Spider-Man 2, the PS5 game. Just by coincidence, or I don't know if it's related, but yeah, they just have this weird movie that is just like a villain from Spider-Man who is the main character, which I guess they did with Venom, and people seem to like those Venom movies. But Sony is just like doing everything they can to stay relevant, and it's not super working for them every time.
Well, and here's another thing to bring up. As like I am completely out on superheroes at this point. DC is like rebooting everything.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. If you weren't like done with superheroes at this point because MCU has sort of overplayed their hand, there's going to be a whole nother wave of DC movies. So
you know what's also crazy about this? So did you watch that thing? This was maybe a year ago, or it seems like forever ago, that where James Gunn was like, "Here's what's happening."
No, I didn't watch it.
So that movie with Robert Pattinson, The Batman, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought that was a good movie. That
is going to get a sequel, but he is not the new Batman going forward. That is an Elseworlds or whatever type of thing. He's not canonically going to be the new Batman, although he will still exist as a Batman that maybe will have his own series, which is confusing to me, but I guess whatever, everything can be everything now. But I don't know I don't think they've cast the new Batman, whoever that's going to be, but I don't know.
Not Ben Affleck?
Well, you didn't watch The Flash, did you?
No.
It's not Ben Affleck anymore.
Is he dead?
No, he's in a different place. Not to spoil. I mean, do you care about spoilers?
No, not at all.
At the end, in The Flash, he goes and he hangs out with Michael Keaton, Batman, for a long time, and then he gets back to his own universe, and he's like, "Man, so crazy! I'm finally back in my own universe. I better go talk to Bruce Wayne." And he goes to talk to Bruce Wayne, and it's George Clooney, who was Batman back in the 90s.
Yeah,
and George Clooney is like, "Why do you think I look weird? I'm just a regular old Bruce Wayne. What's something wrong?" But it's George Clooney.
So I guess he's stuck in the wrong universe, maybe?
I don't know. Who knows? I don't even think he's going to be Flash anymore. But yeah, it's interesting. These are movies that I would definitely will enjoy checking out on streaming services. But again, yeah, I don't know that it's going to get me to go into the theaters like Dune 2 would, or what's another thing that you would go to the theaters for that might coming out soon?
The next Mission Impossible.
Yeah, whatever the sequel to.
They delayed it, but that was coming out at some point.
I guess the sequel to Fast and Furious, whatever that's going to be, because that also left in a huge cliffhanger that is crazy to even describe. But that will be one as well. But yeah, anyway. We should wrap the show up. We're just talking about movies now.
Do you have any parting wisdom?
You know, IKEA is great. And we were shopping around for couches, and this has possibly been my advice previously, but we did buy a new couch from IKEA recently, and it was super affordable, and it's very modular, and it's got like a thing we can store blankets in and whatnot. But yeah, if you live by an IKEA and you don't have a lot of money, but you want to spruce up your house, check out their furniture because it's great and it's easy to put together.
Don't they have like meatballs there as well?
Yeah, they have great Swedish meatballs. They have, I got a long pretzel stick from there that was great, like a Bavarian style pretzel. And they have ices. They have lingonberry ices there as well. Great stuff.
Interesting. I wish there was an IKEA near me, but there is not, sadly.
Someday.
Maybe someday. On that note, go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Starside Cafe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.